Cool. I'm not unmuted. Okay, yeah, there we go. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see y'all. It was good to hear about the trip to Mexico. So that was really good. Thank you. Well done. Good job. Um, Today, so I was told that you guys finished up First John, which is good. And so you finished that up with Gabe. And so we're going to start into the second letter of John. And Second John is so short. It's one of the shortest books in the Bible. We might finish it all today, or we might not, because let's see, we got 24 minutes. So yeah, we'll see how far we get. But there's some good stuff. So the second letter of John, it has a little bit of a different historical marker. It's of course written after First John. But in First John, he was really addressing false teachers. And the church, he says you need to contend for the faith. And he urges the church to stand up for the truth and not be deceived. But now he's kind of transitioned. So this letter is a little bit more about missionaries than it is anything else. They had traveling speakers back then, traveling teachers, I guess you could say. And they would house them and feed them while they were in town teaching or speaking. And that was part of the way they supported them. And so the problem is they've now transitioned from contending for the faith to there is someone who's housing these false teachers and it's kind of supporting them. And so he's going to warn them away against that. And we'll see that. And so there's some very important cultural factors and nuances that we need to be aware of, or else we might misapply this to us as some have in the past. So we'll read the letter and then we'll kind of dive into it a little bit. So 2 John, starting in verse 1. The elder to the elect lady and her children, whom I love in truth, and not I alone, but also those who know the truth. Because of the truth that resides in us and will be with us forever, grace, mercy, peace will be with us from God the Father, and from Jesus Christ, the Son of the Father, in truth and love. I was very glad, because I found some of your children walking in the truth, just as the Father commanded us. And now I ask you, lady, not as if I were writing a new commandment to you, but one that we have had from the beginning, that we should love one another. And this is love, that we walk according to his commandments. This is the commandment, just as you have heard from the beginning, so that you should walk in it. For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess Jesus Christ coming in the flesh. This person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch yourselves that you do not lose what we have worked for, but receive a full reward. Everyone who goes too far and does not remain in the teaching of Christ does not have God. The one who remains in the teaching, this person has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house. Do not speak a greeting to him, because the one who speaks a greeting to him shares in his evil deeds. Although I have many things to write to you, I do not want to do so by means of paper and ink, but I hope to be with you and to speak to you face to face, so that your joy may be complete. The children of your elect sister greet you. So 2 John, we've read the whole thing, what he's looking at.
That also lays some responsibility on the members.
Mm-hmm.
Because for you to identify a false teacher, you have to know the truth.
Yes.
Therefore, he's asking us to know God well enough to be able to identify a falsehood from the deceiver.
Mm-hmm.
He simpled it down to those who know that Christ is.
Yeah.
Died and was resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty simple. But some of these guys have come at it with a flowery way that suck you in, and you're already listening to them before they hit you with something
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, we love one another, but at the same time, we also have to hold each other up to a standard.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we don't get sucked into it just by wandering off the path.
Yeah.
There's more damage done by people that just took one little step away and then just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody just takes a hard right turn. Hey, I want to quit believing in God and Christ.
Yeah.
Wander away like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's good. Yes, it is important that we know the truth to be able to test this. And what's interesting here is it seems like John is addressing the church as a whole, but he's also specifically addressing a specific lady in the church. I am not fully understanding how that comes out to be. So our teacher who taught us this, he was speaking on the Greek and the study of the scholars, and they're like, he is addressing the church, but this elect lady seems to be a specific lady within the church that John is addressing. And so this specific lady, he's saying, be careful who you're showing hospitality to. She was showing hospitality, which is something that they ought to do, something they were commanded to do, but he was like, you need to be careful about supporting evil. And an important thing here is that he clearly identifies here who this person is. And it's those who don't confess that Jesus Christ came in the flesh. And so sometimes there's different things that warrant different responses. And I want to bring that out here. So this isn't just, it is up to the church. The church needs to be knowledgeable, like you were saying, to make these good judgments. Because if you look at, like, for example, Priscilla and Aquila, and they addressed this teacher who is teaching the baptism of John and not the baptism of Christ, and they gently took him aside and corrected it, and he went on teaching the truth. So we have to be careful not to just be like, oh, you taught something wrong, we no longer show hospitality to you. This is a very specific circumstance with a very specific lady, and so we must be careful with this passage and the other biblical examples of where there may have been a false teaching, but that doesn't make a false teacher necessarily. And so that's just a caution with this letter as we get into discussing this further. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah.
the church is considered the bride of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it would be the chosen lady.
Yes.
And then her children would be those of us that belong to
Yeah.
would be my interpretation.
Yeah. And I totally understand that because it makes a lot of sense and doesn't contradict anything. It really doesn't change much. But there's a few verses that he brought up that it seems to show that it was one person he was speaking to, though he was speaking to the whole church as well. This letter was written to the church, but this specific lady seems to be just one specific person. But I don't know, so I'm not going to say you're wrong. But I thought I'd present what he presented so that you can research it on your own time, and maybe learn the verbs and tenses of Greek words, which actually we're going to get to do. We just haven't had that Greek class yet in our studies, which I'm excited for because I love Greek, but I don't know it well enough yet to be able to answer those questions. So anyways, yeah, good. So we can just take this to mean the whole church, if that works better. Because I can't tell you otherwise. Anyways, so with all of that in mind, I also want to note that the tone of this letter is so much like 1 John. He's very kind. He's very caring. Again, he starts off with the elder, and he's basically saying, your father in the faith. It's very endearing. He's very patient and kind with these words, gently correcting a mistake or danger here within the church. And so I think it's just another good example for us in ways that we should correct each other.
At the time of writing, John should have been very old.
Yes, he was getting towards the end of his life.
Knowing that he was the last surviving apostle.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it would be like your grandfather or an elderly uncle teaching you. So
Mm-hmm.
he's lived long enough to have those patience, that kindness, and know how to
Yeah.
address people.
Mm-hmm.
One of those who gets more flies with honey than vinegar type thing.
Yeah.
He's very well versed with ways of the world and personalities of people.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, he's writing words, so the words are coming from God, and he knows how to put them where they're attractive to other people.
Mm-hmm.
We can hammer someone with the truth,
Mm-hmm.
then leave offended or put off.
Mm-hmm.
What good have we done?
Yeah. It's I always think of the passage, and yeah, you're totally correct. If I have not love, and I do all these things, it's worthless. It means nothing. I think it's in 1 Corinthians. And so, yeah, that's true, very true. And John does that beautifully. He gives us a very good example of how to tell the truth in love, and how to rebuke and correct in love. And that's just one of the things I love about John's letters. That's why I mention it every time. It's so cool to see that. And furthermore, yeah, it's really good to see. Sometimes people think as they're nearing the end of their life, as they're getting older, like God may be done with me. Like I don't have much else I can do. But you're calling me to be a John to someone. To lovingly walk beside a church, and to show them the truth and correct them in a loving way. And so that is a important role of elders and those who are just older in the church, though John was an actual elder. Sorry, the whole thing in my throat. So, an interesting note on a couple of key words before we dive into this is participates in verse 11, or shares, depending on your translation. The word there is koinonio, and this is an interesting word because it's not just, so the one who enters allows this person who is speaking the evil against the Father, and blaspheming the Son, the one who does that, he shares this koinonio. That word is deeper than just like, maybe it's a surface level shares. It means to enter into fellowship or join oneself as an associate, making oneself a sharer or partner. So it's a really tight-knit bond is kind of the idea here. If you think about the people you allow into your homes and that you share meals with and you provide for, they tend to be very close. That tends to be family or very close friends. And so that is a relationship that we should have with the church. But those that deny the Son and the Father, that's not a relationship we should have with them. That's a very dangerous thing because now we are participating in their evil just as they are. And so it's a key word that I like to know. And then there was another word that I like to point out. It's resides or abide, depending on your version. It's meneo. And it's the equivalent of to not depart, not to leave, and to continue to be present. And he's just saying, be present, continue to be in the truth. Don't depart from it. That's kind of his urge when he uses that in verse 2 and verse 9. verse 2. In verse 9, it might be remains. But yeah, so two good words. So now kind of I have some questions, and it's kind of based off of the whole premise of the letter. That's kind of why I wanted to give us history, backstory, important words, and to kind of get a good understanding of this text. Because I want to look at us today. So we needed to understand its context, because we have to understand this is a specific situation in this specific church to a group of people that are struggling with a specific thing. And so we have to be, again, very careful when we take this to us, not to go too broad with it. And because we don't want to accidentally alienate or disfellowship, whatever you want to use, not show hospitality to those that this doesn't apply to, because that's also a danger. If we go too far, then we are denying brothers in Christ, and that's also very serious. So we have to be very careful with this. Got to keep it. We got to bring it over carefully to us. But a key thing in this is showing hospitality. So what are ways we show hospitality today, and why is it important that we do so? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good example. We bring people into our homes. We feed them. We care for them. That's part of our hospitality. And yes, you guys do that every time you have a guest speaker in town. You take care of us well, so that's good.
There's also just the idea you said earlier, this fellowship and meal.
Mm-hmm.
In public, going out to spend time, hanging out, discussing ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You can have someone you disagree with and study,
Mm-hmm.
but fellowship, or to have this sameness of life,
Mm-hmm.
is a kind of a different idea. It's more than the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
That relates to what you said about not taking it too far.
Mm-hmm.
John's warning of false teachers,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily someone that doesn't know or someone that doesn't believe yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone that claims to believe but is teaching falsely what's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're to go out into the world.
Yeah.
We're to try to bring as many as we can into the light.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not saying shun the non-believers,
Mm-hmm.
or shun those that are in ignorance or without the knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. He's specifically telling us to shun those that claim to be of the truth, but do not reject that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not asking us to judge that person, but he's asking us to have discernment on what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good.
So I mean, we can't take that to the level of I can associate with him, have him over at my house because he doesn't believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, how do we ever get to someone that we don't show them?
Right. Yeah. Good points. Good clarifications. Yes. So, why else is it important that we show hospitality, or how else do we show hospitality today?
But I think in our society, even it's just financial.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody is teaching something that is wrong, we financially are supporting their work, then we're supporting the teaching of something that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it gets very gray sometimes. So, for example, focus on the family.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily teach as much about salvation issues
Mm-hmm.
as they do giving support for building up family and
Mm-hmm.
making strong family through biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
So do you support that or do you not? You know, they are doing it in the name of Jesus and giving him the glory.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, but they haven't falsely communicated
they're just coming at it from a different angle. If some of his advice helps you with your family, you go to thinking, where did he get this advice? Then you point them to the Bible. If all roads lead back. If you have set it up correctly.
Yeah, and and as you're discussing between those two different points, again, it's important that we make sure we don't go too broad with it, right? And that we stay. This is someone who is against Christ specifically. They teach against Christ. They teach against the Father. They say Jesus didn't come in the flesh. Jesus is. They deny the Son. They deny the Father. So it's not, sometimes we in the church, we disagree over things. Sometimes we are like, okay, you're not right on this topic or so-and-so, but we're still brothers and sisters in Christ. We still share fellowship. We still support them. Not everybody's right all the time. In fact, all of us are wrong at some point in our lives, if not every point in our lives in some way. We're constantly learning. We're constantly growing. That's part of being a Christian. But this is a specific evil that is being spoken against. And so, there's different things that we can partake in that may not necessarily have everything right. But it's still a good work, especially for Jesus. And so, so there's a lot of good examples of that. I think Focus on the Family is one of them. They do good work, but they don't preach against God or Jesus. And so there'd be a fine work to support. Because again, we have to be careful not to take this to mean anyone I disagree with or don't think is necessarily got it all right.
Also, there's a responsibility on our part to make sure those that we're supporting, we're not doing it blind.
Yeah.
So, in a perfect world, anybody we supported as far as missionary work, someone from this church would go see them.
Yeah.
And see their interactions with their people. That way,
good.
they come and bring us a presentation. They can put in that presentation whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's kind of like giving a business with your credit reference. But very seldom does one of them give a credit reference that's going to give them a bad rating.
Yeah.
They can choose who they give you a reference to.
Yeah.
So the people that come here and give a presentation, they're going to present what they think you want to do. So the best thing is to have a relationship enough to go and see their interaction with the people.
Yeah.
And you may even get an idea of what they're preaching or talking to the congregation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be active in capacity.
Yeah, that's really good. John knows about this because he kept in contact with the church, and he couldn't go visit them, which is such a. He's probably still in prison on Patmos at this time, though at the very end of his life, he does get out and he goes and stays with. I think he goes and stays with Mary in. I forgot where. The teacher told us, and I forgot, and then I didn't write it down. So, but at the end of his life, he may have been at the end of his life where he's back, and maybe he's too old to travel, but he wants to go visit them. Either way, he's prevented from doing so. But yeah, he still has contact with this church. Throughout all of his ministry, he's been in contact. We know there's communication going back and forth. We get these letters that he sent to him, but they were sending stuff to him, so he knew these situations. Whether that was a disciple of his that was going back and forth and was reporting, or there was a member in the church who was sending a letter, whatever it was, they had a duty to stay in contact with one another, and sometimes we forget that. And that's part of hospitality too, I think. Going and visiting your missionaries or those that you support in the congregations that they're working in. That's a good way to support them, because missionaries and ministers, they need more support than just financial. They need more support than just prayers. They need presence of people that say, hey, we care about you. We're here for you. We wanted to come visit, say hi, see how you're doing, see how the church is doing. And that's not just good for the person you're supporting, but for the church too. They get to meet their supporters. And that's something that some churches don't get to have sometimes. And that's a good thing for the church to have. It builds those bonds and connections across the globe that we all need. And so, yeah, that's a very good point, and a part that is sometimes often neglected or forgotten. So what do you think John would write to us today about hospitality? Would he say, good job? Would he say, be careful? Would he say, you guys need to step it up? Like, what do you think he would say to us?
It would probably be like more like some of the letters that he wrote in Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Commend you for this, but
Work on
I
this.
find this shortage.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost guarantee that. If he had something tremendous for him.
Yeah.
We know we can get the representative. We know ourselves better than anybody.
Yeah.
But it would be, I encourage you to keep doing this, but this needs to, you need to adjust.
Good. So what do you think he would commend us on? We eat together well? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah.
We're always welcome to those that show up in the door.
Mm-hmm.
How welcome are we on Tuesday or Wednesday? Someone who's bumped into.
Yeah. Good. Good. Anyone else have anything before we close? Well, cool. Thank y'all for your discussion. It was good. And we may revisit this and talk about it a little bit more. Whoever's next, I don't know. But thank you.